moldy chocolate?
The tardigrade?
I'm Jasmine.
Swear on Satan, I'll do that. That's my headcanon.
Okay, into it, all of it.
I'm Mel's.
I love it. Dumb.
Wait a minute. And if you're watching TV,
I love it. Make sure it's damn fine TV.
This is amazing. That was awesome. Oh my God. Okay.
Do you like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Hello, Scream, obviously.
Same girl, same. Yeah. Welcome to the first ever installment of Damn Fine TV Goes to the Movies. I am one of your hosts, Jasmine.
And I'm Mel's, and we are here to talk about Scream, or as it's affectionately known to some, Five Cream.
Five Cream, still a missed opportunity,
Yep, I agree.
Well, I mean, I could scream because I'm so excited right now. I mean, like, I feel like we were counting down the days to this release for a long time. Like, I remember when we first talked about the news, we were super pumped. And then as it was getting closer, we were like, man, maybe it'll just, maybe they'll give us a sweet access, like on digital or on streaming, because, COVID's fucking things up. But it didn't. So we couldn't watch it together, but we've still seen it. And now we get to talk about it. And I'm so pumped because, like, ever since we started talking, we knew that we both had a love for the original Scream, for Skeet Ulrich, for Matthew Lillard, for Neve Campbell, for all of these people, just for the franchise in general. And now we get to talk about the new one. I'm so excited.
Like, this is like a day of and I'm just talking about like in general of, because you think about, like, at least for us, for our age, right? Like when the original Scream came out, well, obviously that was 25 years ago. So we weren't like having a podcast or digital, like, video cast or anything like that. So
anything. Yeah.
Yeah. And like now to be in the moment where we have the opportunity, and there's so much nostalgia because of all of the Scream. And then we're here with this much anticipated, long waited, requel, reboot, sequel, whatever. Yeah, like it just feels so good that it's here, and it feels so good to talk about it with someone that was there for the original in its originality, if that makes sense, right?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, like not somebody that's catching up in present day, which, no shade, you should definitely catch up with the Scream films if you've never seen them. I feel like that's as good a place as any to say full spoilers for the new Scream movie at least, but probably the entire franchise in bits and pieces, I would say. So if you are one of those people that hasn't seen it yet, go away, go watch them. You will thank us. Come back later. All right. So prepare for spoilers.
You've been warned.
Yes, you have been warned. Don't wait. Maybe tell us you'll be right back. I don't know.
Oh, and I was trying to think of a way to play that in, that I was like, I can't off the top of my head. So be right back in a safe manner after you've watched.
Ask somebody to go watch these movies with you.
Yes.
I mean, I kind of don't know where to start. Like, should we do overall thoughts, or should we just dive into like how we're feeling about anything, just like a free for all? What do you want to do?
I mean, honestly, I feel like for overall thoughts, we probably already hit the nail on the head with that. I mean, we were totally excited for this. And I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like for both of us, it totally lived up to like this 25-year wait from the original, obviously not from Scream 4. It's been, not 25 years since then, but
10-ish years, I think, right?
Around that time. So I mean, I think you can tell from the excitement in our voices, right, that we're fully on board and we loved it. So
100%. Yeah. I mean, I can't get enough of it. I've already been back to see it again. I feel very lucky that I had just a ton of Cineplex, like basically free movie money that was just stacking up over the years because I never really go to movies, but people kept giving them as gifts. So I was just like, yeah, I'll take, you want to go see Scream? Let's go. I'm ready to go again. But I think this is exactly what the franchise needed and what it deserved.
I agree.
Because I will say I don't hate Scream 4. I think there's a lot of hate for Scream 4 out there. I think it gets the most shit on, maybe between 3 and 4. I don't know, but it wasn't the way to end this franchise. If this was going to be the end, we of course already know that there's going to be a Scream 6, Cream, whatever. But I'm just so grateful that this movie exists, because now the ending isn't Scream 4.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's funny because we're both huge Scream fans. I like to really like read a lot of and like research a lot about like movies and why certain choices were made with certain movies and why they went down the path with storylines. And I think if you read and you do that sort of research, it's for me personally, I don't hate Scream 4, and I mean, is it my favorite? No, but I feel like uh I I don't hate it. Let's just put it that way. I'll watch it, and it had great moments in it, and I understand what they were trying to do in that film. And I'm sure we'll get to talking about how it was better done this time around. But as far as Scream 3 goes, I know a lot of people just did not feel the vibe of Scream with that. But like the times that I've read about it and when it came out and some of the things that were like happening with like Columbine and violence in media and things like that, like it kind of makes sense why some choices were made for that film. Like not a lot of gore, not a lot of the things that you were expecting from Scream 1 and Scream 2, but that you did get in Scream 4 several years later, So I think that it's an unfair like disadvantage to Scream 3 because if you look at it through that lens, like I like Scream 3 once you start to realize that they were trying to I don't want to say do it the right way, but based on the times that we were living in when it was released,
for sure.
right?
Yeah.
Like they want the choices that were made, they felt like were the appropriate ones to make for the audience that it was geared towards. And I can't hate that, So
no. And I think with each Scream film, they've tried to do something a little bit different. Like, even though we're technically dealing with copycat killers, so the fact that the vibe of Scream 3 is just a little bit different, like, I can't fault it for that, because I also don't want every Scream to be the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So, with that said, I must say the newest one, 5 Cream, definitely feels the most like the original. And I think a lot of that is down to Mindy's explanation of this requel idea. I think that is so perfect. It's so Scream to call something a requel and to explain it with like, okay, you got to have new people, you got to have a new storyline, but it's got to involve the legacy characters, it's got to go back to the past, even if those storylines maybe shouldn't still be going on. Like, to call that out within the conversation is so the vibe of Scream to me. And I just thought it just breathed fresh life into this whole thing and made it like, now I'm just so, not that I wasn't pumped before, but I'm that much more pumped to be like, where is this franchise going from here? Because it's not just another Scream 2, 3, 4. It's like, this is like Scream 2 part 2. Like, I don't know. It's just, there's so many possibilities and they all opened up within this one. It was awesome.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And okay, yes, I agree with everything. I love the requel concept. I also I always had a soft spot for Randy. I really don't know why, but when when his character didn't make it through the second one, I was so heartbroken. I mean, I'm
I
talking
know.
like I thought I would never watch the movie again because it hit me that hard. So I really loved it that it was his niece that was giving us all of the
Yeah.
information about a requel. It just,
I know. I
but it
have
felt
chills. It's
so,
so
me too. I
perfect.
know. And it felt that, and that's the authentic vibe of why it felt so original Scream, is that, like we're talking about with legacy characters, even though Randy didn't make it, like he's not alive in 2021, 2022, it's his family that's still carrying on the legacy of being absorbed into film and these rules and
Yes.
how you make a good sequel, how you make a good, everything like that. Um, it's just so perfect. And
It really is. Yeah.
what I love too is that we went back in Five Cream or this Scream, um, not
Five scream,
just,
this scream. We all
well,
scream for more scream.
yeah. Not that we just got our legacy characters in there, but we got legacy like locations as well. So like with Scream 4, it did take place in Woodsboro. I mean, 2 and 3 did not. 4 did, but we didn't see Stu's house. We didn't see, we
Right.
didn't get these locations,
Yeah.
like we did in this one. And so I think that's why it hit the nostalgia in the right ways while creating a brand new fan base that, like we mentioned earlier, were
Yeah.
maybe not there for original Scream back in the mid 90s.
Yeah. You're right. Going back to Stu's house hit me in a way didn't I didn't think it would, but it did. I mean, as soon as they went there, I realized what house they were in. I mean, even with all the changes and stuff, it's just the layout. And I think just being so familiar with that original Scream, it's kind of hard not to
Yeah.
know where you are. But then you get that angled shot of Sam standing in the doorway, and that's another just full chills moment because you're like, holy fuck, it's all going down here again. I
Right.
love that Sydney mentions it and says, you might be the most derivative one, like back in the original house. Like, I don't know, just like lampshading all of these things makes it that much better for me because that's what Scream deals in, those meta things, and it always has. So good on her for saying that. Like, good on them for writing that into the script.
Oh,
And then there's a
yeah.
moment when Sydney first enters the house, the theme music kicks in, like from the original, from those moments, and it's just like it just hits you in all the right spots, like you said.
Oh, I mean, definitely. And I mean, that speaks a lot to Kevin Williamson. Like, I mean, he writes so well. And I mean, listen, the other thing that I know him most for is Dawson's Creek. And, I look
So
back
weird.
on that. Yes, I know. And I look back on Dawson's Creek and I'm like, I don't get the same nostalgia vibes, but
No.
it's the way that he writes and the storylines he creates that are so good. And so yeah, like he knocked it out of the park with this new Scream. And gosh, it was just so great. And I loved that.
But he
It
wasn't the only
felt,
writer this time around, right?
no,
Like it was
no,
kind of a new creative team, which
right.
to me blew me away because I mean, there are a lot of shots where I'm like, that's not quite Wes Craven's touch, but I don't know that I want you to be exactly Wes Craven. But like this creative team did a great job of tapping into what I think most people wanted.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I really do. And it felt like an homage to him, and that's how it should have felt. Like,
Yeah,
I don't think I would have enjoyed it if I had left the theater and I had thought to myself, that felt too Wes, because
sure.
that should have never been that wouldn't have worked, right? Like
I
that would have
agree.
blown it out of the water. It would not have
Yeah.
it wouldn't have landed like it did. Like the subtle touches here and there, the certain
Yes.
angles, the certain lighting, the certain ways that would be a Wes Craven
Yeah.
influence shot were perfect. The rest of it being on the new creative team it just worked out so well.
I mean, that in itself is requel, right? So they're
Exactly.
taking it to like that extent as well, which I mean, yeah, you have to. That's what makes all of this work so well.
Yeah. And I mean, also like the storyline itself, I love that it actually felt so much like the first one, but it was different enough. And I mean, that I think that obviously
Mm-hmm.
we've talked about that. That's what the requel is. But
Right.
what I enjoyed is that you're getting that whole feeling again of a group of friends, and then these things start happening. You do have your legacy characters that are going to come in, and they're going to have to be part of it because they're part of the original story. Um, but the fact that it just took the very first storyline, the very first Scream, and then wrote the new path for today's age, it doesn't feel like it's a complicated formula. And that's what I appreciate about it, right? It's
Sure.
like when you get to looking into like some of the other sequels and things like that. I mean, I understand storyline choices like we talked about earlier, but I just love that this was just tale as old as time, meaning we're back to a group of friends and one of y'all is the killer. And who is it?
Mm-hmm. And
Like,
everyone's a suspect again. And
yes.
it was so well done in that way that, I mean, one of like the boyfriend is the killer. The
Right.
boyfriend is the killer. And Dewey tells us that immediately, to where I'm like, oh, it's not him.
Yeah.
Like it's so well done in that way where I was like, oh, it can't be them. And I should have trusted Dewey. Obviously, I should have trusted Dewey. Like I was stupid not to. It's like Richie says in the end, like, how fucking stupid are you?
But I love that that's so meta too, because that's exactly what happened in the first one. Is that right
Exactly.
off the bat, you're like, it's Billy, but it's not
Yes.
Billy, right? So I mean, like,
Right.
that's what I
Yes.
mean by them just taking that literal very first storyline, but
Hmm.
you've been through it so much where you're like, no, it
It
can't be
can
this.
be. It can be the boyfriend.
And even though it turns out to be, it still feels so fresh, you know?
Oh, I was not mad at all. I
Right.
loved the reveal that he was also, because they did such a good job too of, I mean, he clearly didn't fuck with Sam enough for her to not fully trust her sister, but he fucked with me enough to think it was Tara. And Tara was like within an inch of her life. And I was like, that bitch did it.
Yeah. Look, she's in on it. I mean, it's like,
I was like, it's her and Amber for sure. They went upstairs to get the extra inhaler.
yeah.
Sure.
And it's so hard though, too, because, well, what you love about it is that you're also taking that original storyline, which is Stu and Billy, and you're imposing it into this group of friends. And so you're like, these two
Right.
are so close. They're talking to each
Yes.
other in the opening scene. So they're obviously the closest friends that we're going to get out of this group in this movie this time around, right? So,
Yeah.
right, like Billy and Stu stabbing each other in the original and setting it up for them to be the survivors, uh, that felt like that was where it was headed, even though, like you were just saying, like she was within inches of her life, and you're still like, maybe she just cut too deep.
Well,
I don't
I
know. Maybe
mean,
she was feeling
yeah,
woozy.
still woozy. I mean, I think the only thing that would have, like, looking back, I'm like, but the opening scene was just for us, like they
Yeah.
weren't presenting that to anybody else. So it would have felt a little cheap if Tara did end up being
Oh, for sure.
one of the
Yeah.
killers. But I love that it was immediately telegraphed to us almost. I mean, like, I think there's a way you can watch that the first time and be like, oh, it's Amber. Like it's very clearly Amber. Like
Yeah.
she's the one setting this up. She's sending a video from way earlier before. Like it's super clear. And I loved that when I looked back on it, I was like, oh yeah, okay. They told us right away. That's pretty cool. I love that it was just under my nose the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. It it worked, and it worked so
It
well.
did. It did. And I loved their motives and their reasoning. I loved that I mean, they definitely could have gone deeper with it, but I don't know that Scream has ever gone super deep. I mean, even with Billy and Stu, where they were like, movies don't make psychos, they make us more creative or whatever. That was like a very surface comment, but it makes you think about it a little bit more. Same thing here for me, where toxic fandom very much exists. And it's had me thinking, since I saw it the first time, then since I saw it the second time, like, where is that line between being a true fan, such as you and I, right? And the thing that turns you toxic. I mean, for sure, killing people is too far. You've
That would
definitely
be the
crossed the
bar.
line.
Yeah.
But where's the line before that? Because there were so many things that either Richie or Amber said, or even Mindy before in the whole requel scene of like, to some people, the original is everything. It means so much to them. And when I went the second time with my friend, previous guest on our show, Amelia, she was like, oh, sounds like somebody I know, like referring to me. And I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, like I can't deny that. But where's that line, like,
you're right. And it's okay. It's really good. And it makes me think, and it actually makes me think about, and we're talking about Scream, I know, but there's in the horror community, I think, especially, which I think makes it even more meta when we're addressing these themes in a horror film. But within the horror community, there can be some really toxic like fans out there. And what I noticed before, obviously, Scream came out, and we got this actual basis of the storyline here of why Richie and Amber were doing this. I think about the reboot, or the way that they're doing the new Halloween movies, but I have seen so much toxicity within this like Halloween horror like community and fandom that it makes you, and I'm talking about just like the arguments and the not giving something a chance because it's not dead spot on, like you're retconning a certain storyline, or you're changing like something that happened in a movie 40 years ago or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But what they're telling you in Scream is a reality. And I think it's super, like in horror movies especially, it's super like relevant because listen, we're all going to have our favorites. We're all going to,
sure,
like things the way that we like them. But you're right. Like, where do we allow creativity for artists to make things that are in that realm and not, just be met with such like disdain from the fans?
Right. Because you're right. We're all going to have our favorites. There's going to be, we said it already up top, like Scream 4 is not our favorite, but we don't hate it. But it's like, there is this sense of entitlement within fandoms where your inability to separate yourself from, well, I'm owed that because that's my story. And it's like, well, no, it's not, dude. Like, it's a lot of people's stories. And before that, it was the creator's story. And like, you are free to not like it. But again, like,
you don't own
it's just so you don't own it. And you can't shit on people that like it just because they like it. But yeah, it's like, where does that line get crossed? It's a really interesting topic to me.
Yes, and I'm so glad they addressed it in this film because I mean, honestly, and when it comes to Scream 4 and Scream 3 as well, but I think primarily with Scream 4, just the things that I've read, people that I've read that they've written about it or whatever, you have to think too about how because that was toxic fandom, but in a different light. That was these characters, not Emma Roberts. And this is terrible because I mean, I like the movie, but I don't like it enough to know all of those other characters' names except for
Kirby.
Yeah.
Only Kirby.
Only Kirby.
Who survives?
I know. So hopefully she'll be back. Yes.
Love that.
Because she was in Woodsboro. But like we know that Emma Roberts' character, like what her motive was she wanted to be Sydney, okay, like
She wanted the fame,
right, but her accomplice, which I love he's a Culkin, I love him,
I
Rory.
think Charlie
No, Rory
is the character.
Oh,
No, the
Charlie.
character.
Yeah,
I think.
Charlie. So, but
Yeah,
see,
Charlie Culkin. Don't you remember that brother?
I was like, that's definitely
You're
not
like,
a Culkin.
no, girl.
I know them all. No. But his motive was he was just such a fan. Like for him, he was such a fan that he knew all of the ways to do this and get this, like to put all the pieces on the chessboard, right? But that's another toxic, like fandom part of I mean horror or anything really, but you know, especially or specifically with horror films. So I think that Scream 4 it had a lot of potential there, and there were themes there that I felt in Five Cream also, but like we said earlier, it was just done a tad bit better. And so you know,
because I think you still the angle of like I don't know. I think I should just put it out there too that like Emma Roberts, I think she was great in Scream Queens. She's pretty good as Madison in American Horror Story. But beyond that, I'm sorry, I just don't think she has the range that I'm looking for in a killer. Like to me, she just didn't fit as Ghostface. I just didn't buy it. And
it just couldn't be done. Yeah.
It didn't work for me. So, but it is what it is, right? Thinking about this now, I'm realizing that we have like the archetypes too in these movies, right? Like we have like people like Kirby and Charlie, let's say in Scream 4, who are both super huge horror fans. They're the Randy, I would say more so Kirby too. She's like the Randy stand-in. Then we have Randy, the original, like, you know it all about horror. And then we have the Stews and the Billies and the Richies and the Ambers that are somehow crossing those lines into like the very scary territories. But
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to say though was I'm glad that they had Richie say a lot of the dialogue around the idea of oh, how can a fandom be toxic? It's about love. And that on the flip side, sort of, we had Amber, like when she was being like super faced with death, she was like, no, it's just radicalized. Like it wasn't really me, which felt super white woman of her. Like that felt very like white feminism to me almost. And I just thought that writing in itself was really good to have. We're talking about toxic fandom here, but to break it down in those ways too, it was really smart.
Oh yeah. I do find it is a little funny though, because let's look at the ages, well, especially I guess of Amber, but also of Richie, because we'd have to say he's around Sam's age, right? I mean, they don't have to be, but we didn't get no one told us a number for Richie, right? It's just funny to me that when Stab 1 was taking place, like they were not born or just born. So it's actually kind of funny that it's also funny to think about it in that way too, because you also have the level of fandom of people that are like, hey, I was around when it happened, meaning that would have been the Sydney age group, right? Or you know, so somebody being like, you're doing it all wrong, it's this and this. It would have worked in that sense too if you had someone of that age as well. So again, it's multifaceted, how toxic fandom, you know, works. And
totally. Yeah.
It's a great commentary.
You know, I mean, this is funny, but it's like if it was somebody older, then maybe we could explain how the fuck Ghostface overpowered Dewey. I mean, I don't care. I suspend my disbelief for shit like that. It does not bother me that Amber, when she puts on that Ghostface outfit, she is, you know, strong enough to kill Dewey. That's fine with me. But I think that's like a big issue for a lot of people that maybe don't love slashers or just can't get past those kinds of things. Like, I don't know.
If I'm gonna be nitpicky, there just would be no way that she would have done that. It would have been Richie. Like if I'm gonna be, if I have to nitpick certain things, because in that moment with Dewey, I mean, pulling out the double knives and
Ooh, ooh.
the ferocity of the killing.
Yes.
And then you're telling me it
I
was a high
know.
school teenage girl. I mean, nothing like girls and boys can are equals. Don't get me wrong,
I
but
think Amber has that crazy strength, you
I
know?
guess so. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it just seemed like it would have been more fitting for it to have been an older male that would have
Sure.
done
Yeah.
Dewey in. And I'm not gonna lie, again, being nitpicky, I was a little bit like, you shouldn't have the honor of killing Dewey. Okay. Like if anything, it should be Richie.
I listen.
But there
Obviously,
goes
I'm
my
very.
toxic fan. Look at me being toxic.
Oh, Mel's. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Walk it back. No.
But you see,
Yes,
like
of
that's
course.
toxic fandom seeping in right there where I'm like, how you do not get the honor of killing a legacy character. Like,
Yep.
what
Way
are
to
you
call it
talking
out, though.
about?
That's how you're not
Anybody could
crossing
do
the
it.
line into murdering people, you know? Like you're catching yourself.
That's right.
I'm obviously very sad that Dewey is gone. The first time around, even the second time around, that hit me pretty hard. Like I had a feeling going into this, we were losing an OG character. It felt like the time that it was going to happen. Dewey was a big one. The way he died was fucking brutal. I mean, that knife went up his spine.
Yeah.
That was heavy. But I don't know if it's also an affection for the actress. I really, really like Mikey Madison, but Amber is one of my favorite Ghostface killers since the original. Yeah. I am in love with her portrayal of this. I think she fucking nailed this from start to finish. I love when she pulls out the gun and says, "Welcome to Act 3," and just blows that girl's head off. Like, the first time around, I was just like, yes, yes, yes. Like, let's fucking do this. She has all the right crazy to her. She delivers her lines with the right amount of like insaneness and when she gets that hand sanitizer in her face and she's just like, hand sanitizer. I don't know. It's just I'm in love with her. I'm totally fangirling for her. Like I love the portrayal.
Oh yeah, she was great. And to go into like the new cast, I mean, God, they nailed it with the actors and I mean, like who they got to portray these new characters and the way they wrote these new characters. I mean, there really wasn't a new character that I didn't like. And I mean, except for the one guy. I can't say that
for Scream 4 though.
Well, I know,
right?
I know. Except for the one guy that was like loosely someone's like cousin. I don't even remember his name.
Okay, so Vince, who was killed in the parking lot. He is Stu's nephew.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, I was like, we didn't really, I guess,
he was
time.
Whatever.
Yeah. But there was not one new character though, where I was like, this isn't working for me. I mean, all of them were just fantastic. Yeah. One thing we have to talk about though is where all of these siblings came from.
I know. I love that.
Now we know.
We knew Randy's sister.
We knew Randy's sister. We knew her. Like that's fine. Where did Stu's sister, or a brother? I don't know. But so Stu had a nephew. I was like,
I think Stu's sister, maybe. I think so. Yeah.
But I was like, there was never an inclination of any other family member in the mocker.
Well, there's that. And then, I mean, there's the huge thing where Sam is Billy's kid. And it's like, when the fuck did that happen? And the timelines don't really match up for how old this girl is supposed to be because she left when she was 18. It's been 5 years since she left. So that would make her 23. But like, didn't this happen 25 years ago? So I don't know if just within the film, it's a few years prior to when it actually is, as Mel's would say, RIL, really in life. But there's some questions there for sure. What I kind of love though, is for me, it's taken care of in Mindy's comment about ongoing storylines that maybe shouldn't be ongoing anyway, but they're still there, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, I loved obviously I loved the Billy reveal because hello, like
Yeah.
I love my man Skeet. I've met him and he is
I know.
there's not an ounce of fat on that man, just so everyone knows. But also but I love Billy. Like I love that original like Scream cast too. It's just so I was glad to see him. I was glad to see this sort of a psychosis, I guess, of what it must feel like to know that your parent that you never met, but the way that Sam finds out and everything like that, but the psychosis that it causes for you're in a small town like Woodsboro, and this is so famous at this point. I mean, what 11 stab movies or wherever we're at, and then you know
At
that your dad's
8.
the one, that kind of started it all.
Well, and they forgot to mention that also her grandmother was a killer, but okay.
Okay, Miss Loomis. Yeah, well, listen, maybe they just didn't want to overwhelm her. All right. They're just like,
well, I sort of think the movie was like whatever to the sequels except for Judy.
Oh, and I am glad about that. We will talk about Judy in a moment.
Oh, yes.
But I'm so glad that it wasn't a CGI. Okay, they de-aged Skeet, but that he was actually like it was actually him. And I was that made my little teenage heart and my older lady heart. I mixed it all up. But so I was glad if they were going to do something like that it wasn't like this CGI rendering of like, Billy back in the day,
for sure,
like that.
Do you think she's seen the stab movies, and this is the vision that she has of her dad, right? Because obviously she wasn't there in Stu's house 25 years ago to see him covered in corn syrup and then blood. Like for a little bit I was like, why is she seeing him in this way? But I was like, she must have seen Stab. Stab seems like a beat for beat recreation of Scream. So
yeah, well,
it's gotta be that.
Yeah. I mean, I would have died if it was Luke Wilson that she was seeing, which is who played Billy in the stuff. I mean, oh, you're not my dad. I'm so sorry.
That would have been, that's going to be in like the Scary Movie spoof for sure.
It has to be. But that's all I could think of. Is that, I mean, she's obviously seen photos of him roundabouts because but as far as like how he looks, because like Stab is pretty much Scream just in Scream's world. So
for sure. But same kind of thing happens with Mindy watching Randy watching, which I always find funny because even in the original, when Randy is calling out to Jamie Lee Curtis, of course it's played by Jamie Kennedy, so it's like Jamie calling out to Jamie. And like when I was scribbling my like random fucking notes, like it's really hard to take notes in a pitch black theater. I don't know if anyone else has tried, but I brought a little notebook, brought a pen, and it's just like massive letters. Like I took like way too many, like it's so many pages just to get all my notes. But I wrote Jamie, Mindy, and then realized one of those people is named Randy. But anyways, I also liked that. And then I liked the like little subversion that there was of her finally being like, well, maybe I should look behind me.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I mean. Like not beat for beat, but it's just all there. But so for it would be nowadays, because listen, in the 25 years, we've all learned the rules to horror. We've all learned all of this with the horror culture. So nowadays, yes, an 18-year-old or a high school student, I don't know the exact age, but they would be, I think, versed enough to be like, maybe I should turn around, or I shouldn't go into the garage by myself to get beer, or, whatever it may be. And so, I mean, I love that because it feels real. Like back when Scream came out, like, listen, we'd had a little bit of a lull in horror, but it was done with what the teenage youth of that day would know about scary movies and whatnot. And so now we've just progressed 25 more years, and these kids, and I don't mean like these kids, but like children or people of this age and this time would have all of this exposure up until now. So this is so
like
good.
Richie says, hello, Gen Z, how are you?
Oh, listen, Richie had some great, he
was a great character.
He was charismatic, and that's why I was like, he feels too dumb to be the killer. And that's why it was so phenomenal at the end, where I was like, wow, you really sold that dumb act really well.
He really, really did. I will say he's a bit of a poor man's Joshua Jackson, but I was still here for it.
Oh yeah. No, that's yeah. So
it's unfortunate, but
yeah. But yeah,
no, he was great. He played it off all really well. There's that scene in the hospital where he is talking about how his alibi was that he was actually watching the stab movies on Netflix, and Amber's alibi is that she was getting actually interviewed by Judy. But on second watch, that scene is incredible because it's Tara, Sam, and both killers, and they're both it's just a really cool, like, once you know everything that's going on, it's such a fun watch on the second time.
Oh yeah. And I do love it too, where he's just eating those Dominoes and watching the stab, and he's like, man, that one was a shitty one with the metallic face. It's just great though, because like, yeah, when you get the monologue at the end, you're like, okay, well, I mean, it just was done so well.
He was in town to kill folks and watch his favorite movies.
I mean,
while pretending he'd never seen them.
Hey, two birds, one stone. Am I right?
Right.
So let's talk about Judy.
Well, speaking of Judy,
I know. Okay, listen. Was I a huge Judy fan in Scream 4? I thought it was odd, and I think. And I'm trying not to be a toxic fan right now, but it was hard for me to step outside of the fact that that group of friends were not the only Woodsboro High students, and that there were so many more like people that went to the school and live in this town.
Right.
So when we got Judy in Scream 4, and she kind of knew that all this and that, and I was like, you weren't even there. Okay.
Right. You don't even go here.
Yeah. She doesn't even go here. Well, but I'm telling you, like, I loved seeing her. And you talk, like, for me, next to Dewey's death was Judy and her son. And it was just so violent. So and
wrong. And that was the first really violent one too.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
even the opening scene, like,
it wasn't that. I mean, it
cut away before anything really happened. But yes, Judy was the first one where the sound effects too. I was like, oof, okay.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and it was just so. It was so sad. I mean, it was scary because it was broad daylight, and she seems to live in the middle of town. So I was just like, wow. And then also that, I mean, like, her son just never, listen, all the jump scares before they did finally get to killing him though, like when he opened the, like, and then he's not there. So good. But it was so good because finally I gave up and I was like, oh, he's not going to get killed here. He's going to find his mom. And then it happens. And I was like, oh my God.
And then the way it happens, that's another gruesome one. Through the neck. Like Ghostface was putting a pin on that man's neck.
Yeah. Listen, the creativity for the kills in this one, I mean, up there. Really good. Really good.
They were all, I really enjoyed that. I mean, that's a sick thing to say, but I enjoyed all of them.
No, but when you're
when you're a fan of slashers though, that's just a thing.
When you're a fan
and
of
you
horror,
look for the creative stuff. Like,
exactly. Like, I was having a conversation with someone and they were asking me about the new Scream. They hadn't seen it yet, but then they asked me how I felt about like how they're redoing the Halloweens. But we got into this conversation. We were like, yeah, but like, on one hand, I follow one franchise strictly for story. And on the other hand, I follow another franchise strictly on how they're going to kill people, which is what it's, that sounds bad. But what I mean is like how the character is, the creativity of the kills from the character. Yeah. And that's not something that I paid attention to too much when it came to Scream. It was always plot and story based for me. Yeah. So what I loved about this requel that has come out is that the creativity and kills are phenomenal, and the story and plot is phenomenal. So,
well, and talk about returning to its roots. I mean, Casey Becker's death
oh yeah,
is disgustingly brutal.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just watched the original a couple of nights ago. It still hits me really, really hard, that opening scene. Like, it is so fucking brutal. So, I mean, it's there
everything
in the
about it.
DNA.
I mean, listen, everything about it. Not just that we see her hanging from the tree like that, but just that her parents listening to it on the like that opening sequence. Huh. Again, that's why I say Scream.
Directors, writers, take
Yeah,
notes.
Scream revived the horror franchise, and here they are. Just, I don't think that we've needed to be revived in 25 years, but they're bringing something totally fresh, like out here, that we don't have to hate the idea of requels or reboots on our favorite franchises.
Yes. I mean, really quickly, just to compare it to something that we both love, I now see Twin Peaks: The Return as a requel.
Yes.
Like,
yeah,
it is.
It is. Yes.
It's great. I think that's the best. But yeah, okay, so Judy and Wes. First of all, Wes, to have a character named Wes, to then have a party in his honor. I think that was a really, really nice touch, a really nice way to call out Wes Craven. But that whole setup was just more smart writing, because you for sure think that Judy's going to walk in and just find her son dead or whatever, and then as soon as she opens the door, what a good twist that she's the first one to be killed out of those two. But then all the setup, like I have in my notes the sushi setup suspense, like it's such a great subversion of jump scares though, because you're right, like you just kind of give up, and then they do it in a different way, and it's great.
So good.
It's one of my favorite sequences from this new one. It's just all really well done.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I mean, I think that was the moment where it really solidified it for me, where I was like, okay, we're watching something that is going to be phenomenal. And I mean that, yeah, like I hadn't even gotten to the end of it. And I was like, honestly, how it ends, I'm not even fussed about that right now. Like, I am in the moment of like what they are doing with these, with these characters. So
I like, okay, I mentioned up front, like I had all of this like movie money just lying around because people kept giving me gift cards and stuff, and I rarely go to the theater. Like, going to a theater generally gives me like panic attacks or anxiety and stuff. And the first time I definitely had a couple, and it was a struggle for me to get through. But I still know that in my brain, I was going, I'm having so much fun. I'm having so much fun. This is amazing. I'm in love with this movie. And we were like half hour in. And I was just like, this is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like I've been to the theater to, I have theater anxiety with horror movies as well. I prefer to watch them at home so I can go at my own pace, even though I love horror. It's my favorite thing ever.
This is the only reason that I went, is because I love horror and I love this franchise so much. Like, but it got me to go after 6 years.
Yeah, but I get theater anxiety for real. Like, I mean, when it comes to horror movies, because I'm like, I mean, I don't want to look like a weenie in front of everybody by leaving here. But yeah, like I've seen other, films like in the theater, and I've been like, okay, not the anxiety's not really there, but it was there through this one. And again, exactly how I knew that I was watching something. Okay, I didn't see the original Scream in theaters because I wasn't old enough to go to the theaters and see.
Wasn't old enough.
Well, by the time Scream 2 rolled around, I was, but seeing it's how I felt when I saw Scream 2 in the theaters. And and
well, that must have fucked with you though, because so I watched Scream 2 last night. I'm slowly making my way through them all again. And I realized that I think some of my anxiety does stem from like Scream them 2? Going to see Stab and being murdered in a fucking movie theater. Like, how have I knew that happened, but then I watched it last night and I was like, yeah, definitely where some of it comes from. And I mean, I know we've heard stories about like RIL shit
Sure,
happening in
sure.
theaters. But like, I have to remind myself, like, A, I'm not that important. B, there's like 8 people in this theater, so what a waste.
I
Like,
mean, well, and it's funny too because a lot of those memes go around where it's like that opening of Stab, where it's like, if
mhm.
this ain't how the theater is when I go to see Scream, you know, or Five Cream, like I don't want to be there. And I'm like, wrong. You don't want
No,
you don't want to be in
no,
a theater full of people with ghost face masks on or Michael
absolutely not.
Myers. Yeah, because the same kind of
No.
memes went around, like, you know, when the Halloween when the reboot of that started coming out into theaters. I was like, I don't think so. I don't want to fucking go into a movie theater with someone dressed like Michael Myers or Ghostface and watch the movie with them sitting there.
No, thank
Okay.
you. No, thank you.
That
Also, all those people were fucking wild because that was a sneak preview of Stab. So they didn't even have the franchise to love. They just loved serial killers. Fuck all those people in that theater.
look, talk about being wild in the streets. Watch the opening of Scream 2. These people were wild in the streets. Okay, I'm talking about
Yeah.
when they were running
I
up the
had to
aisles and
pause and
everything.
be like,
Yeah, I was like, what's going on here? Y'all just ready
mm-mm.
for somebody to die or
Ooh,
what?
they were into it. Yeah, that's always been so funny to me. But revisiting this time, I was just like, what did I miss? Like,
Oh my
ugh.
goodness. But yeah,
Still
no, I
better than a lot of
mean,
people say though. I love Scream too.
I love Scream. It
Yeah,
honestly, it gets shit too, and I don't understand
yeah, it
it
does.
because I really love Scream 2. And
Yeah.
I also there was controversy with that because the endings kept getting leaked and all that other stuff. So I know they had
Oh
to,
shit.
yeah, like that's the reason why they had like Billy's mom, or look, there was a lot of rewrites to things, and so that's why a lot of
Hmm.
there's like plot holes with certain things and toxic fandom, or like some people that are just like, this is too much. Well, what was going on at the time because they pushed for the sequel so quickly that people were
It,
like, oh,
it's next year. I mean, like that's
yeah,
wild.
yeah. And so, but I loved Scream 2. I mean, that
Yeah.
the end in the theater with her and well, Sydney obviously, and then Billy's mom and Derek, you know, oh, them raising him on the
Timothy Oliphant. Yes.
mwah.
Mm, 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 mm.
Mm-mm-mm. Well, Jerry O'Connell is who I was her boyfriend, but still
Oh,
nonetheless.
okay.
Um, but yeah, so anyway, I love Scream too. And listen,
Mhm.
I really love them all. I watched them all. I think I had not I was not planning to go to the theater when I actually went to go see the Scream movie, but in preparation because I figured I would go at some point, I
Right.
just
Yeah.
started watching, you know, them randomly. And I really, when I got to the end of 4, I was like, I can pick out things that I
For
really enjoy
sure.
about all of them. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
honestly, the best part of Scream 4 is Gail Weathers trying to blend in with the party of kids at the Stabathon.
Oh
That's
my
the best
God.
part, okay?
That ghost face mask on, like,
Yeah.
there's so
Like,
many great parts. And like, I mean, Kirby is totally redeeming for me. I think she's a fantastic character. I mean, Hayden Panettiere, however you pronounce
yes.
it, she's great. So
Oh yeah. I'm hoping that
yeah,
she's comes in the
I would
next
love
one.
that. Well, I feel like I have so much more to say, but since we are talking about maybe Kirby showing up in the next one, where do you think they go from here? And I think my biggest question is, do you think Sydney and Gail come back?
I think they should not come back. I
Interesting. Yeah.
I think that this was it. The only thing tying them to Woodsboro was literally Dewey, and Dewey is
Right.
gone. So, and also, I mean, Sydney just kind of had it the had the talk with Sam where it's like, you know, I mean, and I'm fine with Gail and Sydney not coming back for any more. Like we needed them for this requel. We don't need them
Yes.
for anything else.
It's so it's kind of mind blowing to me because I think if somebody had asked me that question before seeing this, I'd be like, they need to be in every one of them. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's Nev Campbell and Courtney. It's Sydney and Gail. What are you? But I really do think, in talking about passing the torch, I really do think Sydney passed it to Sam.
Yeah.
And I think Tara proved to be her own thing. I mean, Mindy and Chad both survive.
A lot of survivors out of this original group,
Mhm.
which is why I think when we move on to the next Scream that will come out, we won't need the legacy characters anymore because now we have new ones. We have new legacy characters now,
We do.
which is, I mean, really, aside from Chad's girlfriend and then Amber, those are the only ones, and Wes, excuse me. But I mean, yeah.
Amber. I'm telling you, I'm in love.
I know, she's great, but like so many more of this core friendship, the core friend group survived in this one, and that's why I mean, I just also I would probably not like it if I saw Gail or Sydney again. I would be like, that's enough. We've had like,
I know, and that I totally agree. And there's a part of me that feels a little pang of bittersweetness because of that. I feel like I was almost about to cry.
Almost. I know.
Because it's
we're closing
Gail, right?
We're closing a door. Yeah.
A really huge door, but we're not hitting them on the way out. They're, they've cleared the door. It's being closed with compassion.
Listen, we don't need a Laurie Strode. Okay, we've got that. Like, that's what I'm saying about, it's like we've got it. And for this franchise, I mean, I feel differently, obviously, about Laurie and Halloween, but for this franchise, we won't need these like legacy characters anymore. Like, they got the proper ending, and I'm just more, and how I know that I don't want to see them back is that I'm more interested to know what is going to happen with Sam and everything else. And that's how I know that their time is over with them.
Now, I think there's a way they could be included in cute little cameos or like a phone call or like something really, really minor that wouldn't, I think, be too much. But yeah, I'm totally on board with the fact that we have a good character base with these new folks. Did love that Gail said, watch your tone, new girl. She needed a little bit of teaching before she was going to take that role as new girl or as like the new Sydney, whatever. But yeah, I'm totally open to seeing what these new characters are about, where they're going to go. I mean, and if we get Kirby back, that's kind of another legacy in a way, like,
True. Yeah.
So,
yeah. And in the next one, I better know who Sam's mother is.
I knew you were going to say that.
But we're not going to know. We're not going to know who it is because they weren't going to be. There's no one from the original that we would know.
No, I don't think so. And even like when I was watching the first one the other night with the new movie knowledge, I was like, nope. It could be somebody at the party, but like, there's nobody that we ever meet that would.
Best case, it would be the cheerleader that was like, maybe Sid did it. Like mom gets
in the fucking bathroom scene. Yeah. Oh my god, those girls were not cool. I don't know. I don't know. Like,
they were mean.
Well, yeah, they were mean, but like questionable fashion choices, questionable and I'm not just talking 90s stuff. Like, it was not a good scene.
Cargo. Wait, what were capris? No, I'm just
kidding. They were so beige. I think she was on her way to her office job afterwards. I'm not sure, but it was weird.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, this was, I mean, it was just done so well. And I can't wait for it to get on digital so I can buy it and watch it like all the time.
I can't wait to watch it so many more times.
Yeah.
I do have one more question for you though.
Yeah.
So do you think in some kind of way Billy Loomis is at all redeemed? And not fully. I mean, in some kind of like, do you think they were trying to position it in that way? Do you think it was more to help Sam kind of find her own strength? Like, it's just that last scene where he's like, hey, look at that over there. That could really help you out. And then like, I mean,
Yeah.
and I love the kill. Like the way she takes Richie out is great.
Yeah.
But I don't know. How do you feel about Billy after this?
No, I mean, did I ever say that Billy did anything bad? No, I'm just kidding. First you have to catch me hating Billy for me to say he was redeemed. Okay.
Yeah.
No, actually, that's a really good question because I'll tell you, in truth, it didn't do anything for the character of Billy for me. If anything,
Mhm.
it did something for Sam, but I don't know yet how I feel about it.
Right.
I think I need to see another film with Sam in it to understand these hallucinations and what they meant to her, because Billy was yes, it was seeming like a moral compass to her to help her get
Right?
through the, but I don't think I think it was to actually show us that she's got the mental workings of not a serial killer, but someone who thinks that same way. Like, but in her mind, like when she would have the thoughts, it would be because it would be a hallucination of her father there, because that's where the thoughts come from, if that makes any sense. So
But it's still her.
right. So for me, when it
Yes.
comes to the character of Billy, it didn't do anything
Right.
one way or the other for me. It was great to just see him again. But I think it spoke a lot to Sam and
Yeah.
why she can be a new final girl, but with a twist on it, because she can think like someone who thinks like Billy, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. No, I fully agree. I think there was a part of me watching it the second time where I was like, they're kind of positioning him as being this like helpful
Father of the
entity.
Year.
Excuse me, sir. Did you know you've won Father of the Year? Here's your plaque. Um, but then you do have to like sit there and critically think about it and being like, that's not Billy Loomis. Like, that is Sam. It's a construct of her mind. She's seeing it in this way, but it has nothing to do with Billy for real. And then, like, I went down a little rabbit hole where it was like, well, but what about people who watch it and like don't have that critical thinking? And then it's like, well, movies don't make psychos, right?
See, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
So good.
And then
I'm just going through my notes and seeing if there's anything that we should really touch on. Oh, I
love
did
the
think that Sam's last name Carpenter was maybe a nice little homage to John Carpenter.
it was, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So it was great to get the hallucination of Billy. I would have liked it if Vincent had lived and maybe he could have hallucinated his Uncle Stu. That would have been nice too.
Hey, I would have really enjoyed that.
I mean, listen, out of the two, I liked Stu better. Listen,
Yes.
Stu had more charisma than Billy could ever have. Okay.
I
Leave her alone.
Get it? Live her alone. Oh my God. I still find that so funny. I still crack up every time.
Me too. Like
When he how does he say it? Oh my God, I just watched this. He went a little too deep, or however he says it, like, and then of course the line about feeling a little too woozy. I mean, Matthew Lillard.
I'm dying, man. Yeah.
My mom and dad are gonna be so mad at me.
Oh, and I love it when he gives a phone, like throws a phone. I was like, hit me with the phone, you dick.
Yeah.
I'm like,
So
yes,
good.
bigger things to worry about, Stu. But that's what I'm saying. Like, out of the two, Stu was the charisma of that group. Okay. Like, so
Matthew
I would
Lillard's
have.
just so good.
I mean, he's perfection in all ways possible.
Mhm.
I don't know about his body fat, but one day I hope to know.
Oh, same. Maybe we can find it together.
Oh my gosh. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, I think it was great though, obviously, that Amber lived in Stu's house. So, I mean, like, even though we didn't get the hallucinations of Stu, we got like Stu's home. And
For sure. What an
so
iconic spot to go back to.
And
And
listen,
even that final, like when she's like, welcome to the third act is fantastic. It is like balls to the wall. When Gail and Sydney launched that little baby Amber over the fucking counter, I lost my shit each time. Then she burns alive, comes back from being burnt alive. Like, so good.
that was so good. Also, yeah, well, when um Gail and Sydney, when they start following and they're like, oh my God, like look where they're headed. And
Yeah.
I mean, like, from the previews that something's gonna go down at Stu's and we hadn't been there yet. So I knew that's where they were headed. But I mean the chills I got from head to toe because I was like, oh my God, they're going to
Yes.
Stu's house. And you would think that home would be like torn down at this point, but okay.
That's what I forget who said that, but somebody that I went with, like it was only Tyler, Lisa, designer of our logo, and Amelia, previous guest on the show. One of them said you'd think that house would be condemned at this point, and I was like, why? You know how much money they could get for a house like that for some people, like
Well,
particularly apparently Amber's parents. So
I guess so, yeah. But
they were doing Airbnbs like they were in real life. Like,
oh my gosh,
come stay at this horror house. Yeah.
but I just have to say, like, yeah, David Arquette. I don't like. I've always like loved him, and he was so Dewey was so different in this one as I feel like he should have been.
Yes.
It was dark Dewey, and it needed to be that because I mean he had lost, he had lost Gail.
Everything.
And then obviously, I don't know. So since I know now that you went the second time, did you clock Tatum's ashes in his home?
Oh, I was looking for it this time. Yeah.
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 And so like it makes sense that it would be Dark Dewey. And then when they go to visit him, he's like, get out of here, as in like, don't involve me in this bullshit.
Yeah.
Done with it.
But then, Dewey, the guy that's always going to be there for you, he's still Dewey at the end of the day. Yeah. It's really fucking weird to think that he's gone.
Yeah.
Like it really is, because it's Dewey. Like
yeah, because he nearly got killed in every single one. I mean, that's the thing. And like, honestly, I didn't know which OG. I was pretty certain that they weren't going to kill Sydney. I didn't know which one was going to go, but listen, it's like after so many tries with Dewey, it finally happened, and I was like, we've had enough of the legacy. But that's another reason why I say we've had enough of the legacy at this point. Like,
I think so too. I think so too. And on like as hurtful as it was kind of, he went back in for the right reason. Like he knew that you had to get the head. And then I know it's like, we said like, how did Amber do this? But the fact that she says it was an honor, I liked that. It just felt like the right thing to say.
It wasn't an honor for me because I didn't like watching it. Okay.
I know, I was very sad.
Listen, I cried at the.
Oh yeah.
The girlfriend that I went with, Julie, she's just not into Scream like I am, but she wanted to go. Bless her heart. Like she was asking me all these things beforehand, and I was like, when is the last time you watched a Scream? But anyway, but like when I started crying, she was like, are you okay? And I was like, I am not. Give me some moments to myself. Okay. Like, because like,
tough. It was tough.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know if I would have cried if it was Gail or Sydney. Like, it's just the fact that it was Dewey.
It hits differently for sure. It really did.
He like, it's Dewey, and he was always the caretaker of everything. And
I mean, I think I would have almost been too in shock if it was Sydney.
Yeah.
Like I think I would still be processing that.
Yeah, she's got too much protection. They'll never kill her off. And I'm saying this, and maybe she'll get killed off in the next one in the opening scene, but I highly doubt it. She's going to go back.
Imagine.
Yeah, but she's going to go back to her family and live the rest of her life. I mean,
so happy for her that she actually trusts a guy enough to get married and have children. Good for her. She's grown up. She's evolved. Married? Well, some guy named Mark, but was that the
cop's name in Scream 3?
Oh shit. I gotta go back and okay. Well, Scream 3 is obviously next on my list. I just watched
Yeah.
Scream 2. So
I like
I
to
mean we could Google
imagine
it, but we don't Google.
we don't
Anybody that's
Google.
new here, we don't Google on Damn
No.
Fun. So
I like to imagine that she, after her press conference tour with her book, that she settled down with him and had children.
I like that. I'm here for that.
And I think the last thing I want to say about Scream is just the fact that Gail has her TV show and that she was like, and that is why you don't get bangs, people. And we
She was
all
like,
know.
stage an intervention. If you ever hear me talking about wanting to get bangs.
But that was so great because that was also like Gail partying in Scream 4 with the kids. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
Gail's such a great character, and I think it might have taken a couple of movies for us to all maybe like get on board with that. But like seeing Gail come back too, I was like, this is great. It gives me the same feelings I do about Sydney, you know?
Yes.
Like,
and seeing the two of them, like when Sydney shows up at the hospital after hearing about Dewey and she's there to comfort Gail. And Sydney says she's sorry to Gail, which I get because they were married, but like Sydney and Dewey knew each other from way back when too. Like they knew each other first, but it was just like that little moment, that little like, I'm sorry to you. I don't know. That was just so sweet. I love their bond. It's been so interesting to go back, watch from the beginning and see how that friendship has evolved over all these years. Like it's a great arc.
bam, bitch went down. Bam,
Yeah.
Sid,
Super bitch. Yes. So good.
Oh my god.
Okay, I think we should maybe end
Yes.
with a little chat about the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
So we'll
like
end where
that.
it began, right?
Yeah.
Because I think this beginning is a really nice homage to the first one, but it's a requel in itself, this like cold opening scene, because it's a lot of Drew Barrymore vibes, but it's not quite popcorn. She doesn't die. She really likes elevated horror, like the Babadook,
Which is smart.
I mean, that's fair. Hey girl, like, you know, like they say later too, Jordan Peele is fucking amazing, right?
Yes.
But it's not Scream. I was initially really mad that it cut from the final, what we thought was going to be the final stab, to just the title card. As the movie went on, I was like, I'm really digging the fact that this initial scene was not a kill scene.
Yeah.
This is how they're switching things up. I'm really liking this. But I was fucking pissed off at first, but really enjoyed the rest of the homage. Like, what were your feelings on the intro?
Well, I mean, nothing was ruined for me, but the thing about trailers and also like spoiler-free reviews when you get on YouTube and stuff, you have to be very careful because they'll still like obviously pull certain things out of the trailer and talk about it. And I say all that to say this, I went into it knowing that it was not going to be a kill scene because we had already seen her in the hospital.
I didn't watch
in the trailer.
I didn't watch like any trailers.
See, I watched the trailer and I watched it one time, but when I got into the theater and I saw who I knew then, I was like, they're not going to kill in this opening scene. I didn't know.
So interesting. That
doesn't mean that because I'm going to be honest, as we move through the movie, I thought they were just going to kill her in the hospital and it still would have counted as the first kill or first attack. But yeah, just based on the trailer though, because I saw her wheeling down the aisle of the hospital, I was like, I knew that she wasn't going to be the kill. That doesn't mean there couldn't have been someone else. But again, as I moved through the scene and I realized it was just her, I was like, no, they're not going to, it's not going to open with a kill. And I like that. So
I was super here for it. Like I said, initially really mad because I think all of the vibes that were there from like the Casey Becker opening, I was like, give me my gore, give me my death. Like I want this, right? But then just with all the other comments that were made too throughout the film, it's like, oh yeah, this is what makes the most sense for what's happening for sure.
Well, and listen, the opening was great though, that she likes the elevated horror and she had to Google the stab cast, but it's just great.
Yes.
Like, I love that though, because I was like, and that's that's where I kind of was coming from when I was talking about who the killers ended up being. It would piss them off that they wouldn't know, like that she
Totally.
wouldn't know anything about the Stab movies. And so I was kind of
Yes.
like, but you weren't around really either when all of this was taking place. So
Nope.
it was great. It was
That's
just smart though.
that's
Smart.
a really good point. Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
Oh, but it was
Also good.
oh my God. So good.
Yes. Ugh. I feel like I could talk about it for so much
Oh,
longer,
me
but
too. Yeah.
yeah. Mm. Very, very good. So glad we got to talk about it.
Cool. So, I mean, we've already been greenlit for another Scream. So, I mean, that'll be out in probably no time at all, to be honest. And then, that'll be great. And we've got more horror.
I
We've got
hope
not just
so.
horror. I mean, we can do more ghosts of the movies about pretty much, I mean, a lot of things are coming out. For me personally, I'm very excited
Yeah.
about Halloween Ends, which will be out later this year. So, as far as like
Oh,
these types
wow.
of movie, like,
Didn't the other one come out just in 2021?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
but so I'm obviously a fan of taking something that's already out there and making it kind of a requel or a reboot or taking your own spin on it. This obviously again is not about Halloween, but a lot of people don't like the Rob Zombie Halloweens. They're some of my favorites, and that's where a lot of toxic fandom came from too. People
Mm,
shit all over that because it's so
right.
different. But I'm like, but the creative direction from Rob Zombie for what he wanted in his Halloween was not to be anything like, it was the concept of the Halloween series. So again,
Right.
toxic fandom is really, and I think it's probably the worst, or the worst I've seen has been with horror, because horror has a special place in people's hearts. And I think, yeah, like you
Hmm.
get really wrapped up on, I mean, you could say this about how they remade Friday the 13th. People didn't like the changes to the
Right.
original storyline. How they remade A Nightmare on Elm Street. They did not like what they did with Freddy Krueger in that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I think we're not giving um we're not giving artists or creators a chance for their vision
Right.
to yes, it's something you're familiar with, but it can be totally different. But that doesn't mean it has to be the worst
A
thing
carbon.
that could have
Right.
happened to this franchise of horror films,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, I feel like that might be an interesting thing to keep discussing. And I don't know why, but I keep thinking about they just recently remade the Slumber Party Massacre.
yes.
I don't know if you've seen the new one. I
I
thought it
haven't
was
yet.
it was in like I think it's incredible. I think they did a really good job of reviving that.
Oh,
To me, it
good.
is I think it actually is kind of a requel. Like now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's following some of that same stuff. That might be another fun. Have
I
you
was
seen
about
the
to
originals?
say, yes, I have. Yes.
I think we should revisit that. I think that would be
Okay.
fun.
I
Yeah.
love it because again, like the commentary, and you see how it feels like it's horror, right? Like it's always the commentary around horror films and the horror
Yep.
community. So
Yeah.
very
All right, well,
interesting.
let's stick that in our back pocket. We'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
I've been wanting to rewatch it because I really, really enjoyed it. So
Okay.
I'd be down to do that. But obviously we'll talk about Six Cream whenever it comes out, hopefully soon. But
I know. Yes.
yeah, but this has been awesome. So
Yeah.
thanks everyone for watching or for listening. I guess if you are listening, we also have a video version up on our YouTube if you want to go and check it out. And if you're joining us for the first time, thank you. We do have a regular show where we talk about Twin Peaks quite a bit and other stuff,
Yeah.
but yeah,
I mean, TV in general over
yes.
on the pod, and right now we're on Twin Peaks, which we're both huge fans of. But yeah, I mean, we cover really all kinds of TV that comes out. With COVID, it's been a little bit of a lower selection to choose from, but hopefully we'll get back to the days where we can cover many more things as we get more I guess wherever we're
As
heading.
we get more stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say wherever
Well,
we're headed.
wherever we're headed. I mean, we do have the free feed with Twin Peaks happening right now. We are covering a little bit more stuff over on our Patreon. If you're interested, patreon.com/damnfinetv. We've been talking about Buffy, The Leftovers. We did a Good Place watch. We're watching a Twin Peaks episode this month.
Black Mirror.
Black Mirror. We're going to talk about Yellow Jackets again. So lots of stuff happening.
Yeah, very exciting.
But yeah, so happy to do this with you, Mels, as always.
I know. Well, two of my favorite things, you and Scream. Yay!
Yes. Same, girl, same. All right, well, thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
I'll be right back.